Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
So let's turn now to another stock that we're watching, which is Airbus. The American depository receipts on Europe's largest aeronautics and space company, they're higher after reporting results. Airbus saying it'll stick with the goal to deliver about 770 aircraft this year, really underscoring its focus on ironing out some supply chain glitches that have gotten in the way. We're joined now by Guillaume Faury. He is the CEO of Airbus. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Guillaume. Welcome to Bloomberg Television and Bloomberg Radio. I think the big story here with Airbus is that it has struggled to ramp up output. And I know you've spoken a lot about the supply chain being severely degraded. Just give us a sense of what the state of your supply chain looks like right now.
So it's quite similar to what we had by the end of the previous quarter. We are limited by some bottlenecks in the supply chain, which are primarily the engines on the single-aisle family, the A320 family, but also we have issues with seats, with interiors, and to a limited extent, landing gears. Those problems are being managed. So we have difficulties month after month to execute on the ramp-up. We have a quite difficult end of the year ahead of us, the year-end rally, as we call it, as we anticipate to have more than 200 planes to deliver in the last 2 months of the year to reach the around 770, which is the guidance. So that's the environment we're in. It's a difficult one. We deploy a lot of resources of our own teams to our suppliers to be able to help. But when one of our important partners like CFM, GE is hit by the hurricane, the Milton hurricane in the US, that has repercussion on our own ability to deliver. So that's where we are.
So where do you expect to see meaningful improvements in the supply chain over the next year? I mean, for instance, could we get a resolution on the engines in the A320?
We know that A320 is relying on two engine makers, two engines, the GTF from Pratt and the LEAP engine from CFM. They have different situations to manage. On the Pratt side, there is an ongoing recall campaign that is leading to a lot of planes of our customers being so-called AOGs on the ground because the engines need to be retrofitted. And that's a vast plan that Pratt is managing. They're on their plan. So we believe next year and the year after, we'll see the number of AOGs going down, and we will progressively be able to have more engines for line fit for the delivery of our own planes. And when it comes to CFM, we think it's a more short-term crisis that they have to manage. They're very mobilized and focused. It will continue to impact us later this year, beginning of next year, but it should get much better by the second half of 2025 and hopefully much better later. So these are crises of different nature. We're on it. Our suppliers, CFM and Pratt, are also managing those situations, and we think that's something that is temporary.
So Guillaume, are you comfortable now, though, given everything that you just said, with the current cost structure right now at Airbus, or do you need to make tweaks there?
You know, we were preparing for a ramp-up that was supposed to get better earlier. So we have onboarded a lot of resources. We have sized the Airbus capabilities when it comes to production, to final assembly lines for more airplanes than what we are delivering today. So we have actually more cost on our P&L than what we would need for the number of airplanes we are delivering. But the good side of it is that we have teams that have time to be trained, to be qualified, to be onboarded on their jobs. We can also deploy teams, experts to our suppliers to help easing the situation. And indeed, this is weighting on our cost on the short term, but this is to some extent the price to pay for the ramp-up that is ahead of us, which is an incredible ramp-up, because we target the rate 75 by 2027, and that's obviously unprecedented.
Talk to me about how the defense and space business folds into that. Should investors anticipate any material changes in the structure of those businesses within Airbus?
We are at the moment changing the structure of our defense and space division. We used to have an integrated division. We are transitioning to a division that will be organized around 3 product lines. And we're transferring a lot of resources that were allocated transversally to the businesses. We want more accountability, we want agility, we want to be able to benefit from the very different dynamics that we see in air power, which is our strongest business in defense and space. This is the military aviation part, compared to space and to what we call the connected intelligence. So we are transforming the shape of defense and space to better fit the world we're living in that field.
So will this stay underneath the umbrella of Airbus, or are you willing to entertain offers for potential separation of these businesses?
So the air power is the core of what we do. Military aviation is really what we've been doing for long, and we think we're competitive in that field, so this will obviously remain. Now, when it comes to space, as we have already indicated, it's another large business of our Airbus defense and space activity that we are turning around, but we think the situation is such that it is worth looking at options for consolidation, for more strategic option on the space business, and that's something that is ongoing in a business, the space business, that is very much disrupted. When it comes to the smaller part of our connected intelligence, yes, we are willing to cooperate, to bring those businesses with others when and if this is meaningful. So we want to be, with what we are doing in defense and space, more agile in our ability to combine businesses with others, but we will continue to remain a strong player in defense, in military, and also in space, but probably in different forms when it comes to space moving forward, as we have to find solutions to this difficult business environment.
Guillaume, one thing that we haven't talked about is the strike at Boeing. It's an ongoing strike, and it's led some suppliers of Boeing to warn about being forced to consider furloughs and job cuts. And I know that Airbus and Boeing share many of the same suppliers. How are you looking at the situation at Boeing right now and thinking through what it means for Airbus down the road in 2025?
Yeah, thanks, Scarlet. It's a great question. Actually, as I said earlier, we have a challenging situation in the supply base. Actually, the situation at Boeing, including the strike, but not limited to the strike, is adding complexity and challenges for the supply chain of Boeing. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, it can be seen both ways. Part of this supply chain is also our supply chain. So we are monitoring very closely what it means for them, and we are taking preventive actions for the difficulties that they might have with Boeing to not have repercussions on our own relationship with them. But that's another area of concern that we have to manage in this current environment.
All right, Guillaume, appreciate you taking time to be with us today. We'll let you get back to work. Guillaume Faury there, he's the CEO over at Airbus.